Hello everyone, welcome to today's video, and today we're going to talk about where Blue Beetle might show up next in the DCU. I'm going to make this video from most unlikely to the most likely. And with that out of the way, let's get started. First, I'm going to say it right away, there's no chance that Blue Beetle is going to show up in Paradise Lost. Let's say it this way, even if Paradise Lost have moments where it take place in modern time, maybe flash forward, that still make the chances of Blue Beetle close to zero. As far as I know, Blue Beetle doesn't have much to do with Wonder Woman in the comics. I don't see him having much to do with Wonder Woman in the DCU. So again, little chance for this to actually be a thing. Next project I don't think Blue Beetle is gonna show up in is one thing. I think maybe a 1% chance higher than Paradise Lost, but I just don't think it's possible. I think that Swamp Thing is gonna focus on characters more magical, maybe having a cameo for maybe Constantine or Satana, maybe seeing them in a post-credit scene, but I don't think Blue Beetle is gonna show up. I just don't see it happening. And then let's talk about the Lanterns. I like the ones I mentioned before. I don't think this one is likely either. It might depend on how much of the show will be based on Earth, but if you remember something James Gunn said earlier, it's like it's a buddy cop space show, or having an inspiration from True Detective. I think it was something like that he said. I've forgotten a little bit about it, but it was something like that. And that is why I don't think it's likely, because I don't think the show will have a really big Earth present. They will have other planets and some mystery that they're going to show. I don't think Blue Beetle fit this kind of story. So that is why I don't think it's likely. Next up is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And just like the Lanterns earlier, I'm not sure if this is likely. It depends on how much of the movie will be placed on Earth, or if it's gonna be placed in space. Though I haven't read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow yet. I haven't really felt any comics in a long time now. I'm planning to read a bit more comics sooner or later. But if what I know from the story is that it's mostly a space story, and if they really going for a hard adaptation of that, then I don't think Blue Beetle is likely. But if they go and do it on Earth, I think it's a bit more possibility. But then again, I honestly don't know. I'm not sure, and that is why I can't say for certain if this one should be higher or lower. Next is Creature Commandos, and I'm gonna say it right away. I don't think this one is likely either, but I think it might be a more possibility since this is a really lesser known group. Again, I'm not gonna say it's a guarantee. I don't really know that much about Creature Commandos, but I do think that Blue Beetle haven't interacted with them much in the comics. So those reasons alone that I already mentioned is the reason why I don't think it's happening, and I don't want to talk more about this project. Next is the Forte, and just like Creature Commandos, I don't think Blue Beetle is gonna show up in this movie either, because I don't think that Blue Beetle had much interaction with the authorities in the comics. What I can say for certain is that I don't think Blue Beetle will fit that type of story. I think that Forte is gonna be as well. So if I put those two together, to me it's obvious that he's not gonna show up. He might be seen in a cameo or mentioned, but I don't think it's more than that. I think it's just as much possible for him to show up in this movie, to show up in the animated Commandos show. I just don't think it will happen. The next show I want to talk about is Waller. Now I'm gonna say it right away. I think there is a chance that we will hear her mention something about Blue Beetle, maybe about the scarab, but I don't think it's high chance for him to actually show up in this show. Don't get me wrong, I can be wrong about this. Maybe we see a cameo, but I don't think we're gonna see him in a big role in this show. I think a cameo is also asking a lot, is what I think, but I think we might hear her mention something about them, and that is why I add these two so high, because I think it's a bit more chance than the ones I mentioned earlier. And then we have Brave and the Bold. Now, I don't know how much Batman has interacted with Blue Beetle in the comics. I know in the TV show Batman Brave and the Bold, he interacted a lot with Blue Beetle there. But as for in the comics, I don't know. And I know I interacted with Blue Beetle a bit in the Injustice universe. So is that. As for Blue Beetle showing up in this movie, I think it's not that likely. I think maybe a symbol that we hear him mention about Blue Beetle, maybe, but I don't think he might actually show up. Don't get me wrong, again, a symbol, there might be a chance that could be a cameo, but I don't think there will be anything more than that if he shows up in this movie. After all the others I've mentioned so far, Superman is maybe the only movie that we might actually see Blue Beetle play a little bit of a bigger role. Don't get me wrong, I don't think this is highly likely either, but I think it's more of a chance than in all the others that I've mentioned so far. But then again, we haven't heard anything about it. James Gunn hasn't mentioned anything. I think that if it weren't for the fact that Blue Beetle was in production while James Gunn was writing, but I don't think it would have happened either, because I don't think James Gunn would have wanted to use Blue Beetle in Superman that early. Maybe he would have used another version of Blue Beetle, maybe Ted Cord, but I don't think Jaime Reyes would have been the one he would have used. Don't get me wrong, I could have been wrong about this, I can be wrong about this, but I just don't see it that likely. As I said earlier, I think it's more a chance than the previous ones I mentioned, but there's only one project in the DCU that is coming that I think is a highly likely chance for Blue Beetle to actually show up in. And that is the last one we're gonna talk about. And finally, it's about the Booster Gold show that is coming. I do think that we might actually see Jaime Reyes in that show, because I think some part of this movie will influence the Blue Beetle show. I do think Jaime Reyes will be a part of this show. I don't know if it's gonna be that big a role or if his role will be toned down a bit, but I do think the hunt for Ted Cord might actually be one of the plot points in this show. So again, I think this one actually is a really big possibility. I'm not gonna say that it's 100% going to happen, because again, I don't know, but I do think that the possibility is high. I think that Ted Kord and Jamie Reyes will be in this show at different time. I don't think Jamie Ray playing the biggest role in the show. I think he must first be at the start and at the end, and have maybe a little bit in between, but I do think the show is mostly focused on Booster Gold. And that's it for this video. Do you people want to see Blue Beetle in any of those projects? Is there any of those projects you don't want to see him in? Let me know in the comment section down below. I hope to see you guys again next time.